Brilliant. Okay, so as I said a bit earlier, welcome everyone to our webinar, Branding, Why It Helps You Sell More and Charge Higher Prices. So let me share with you our agenda for this evening. So it's probably going to take just over an hour in total to go through all the slides. And it really does depend on how much interaction that we get from everyone. I know not everyone on the call today knows my background, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself, and then we're really going to get into the nuts and bolts of the presentation. And first of all, we're going to start off with looking at the magic of being interesting. And just a little fact here for you. Did you know that more information has been produced in the last 20 years than in the previous 2000? I mean, really, can you just take that on board, how much information we are producing at the moment? So the question that I would want to ask is, can you imagine how difficult it can be for entrepreneurs and small business owners like us to stand out from a crowd, you know, to really elevate ourselves above the competition when there is so many messages and sound bites flying around? You know, how really do we stand out so that our ideal client and our target market can see us? So in our webinar tonight, we're going to examine 3 key stages: getting noticed, getting remembered, and getting talked about. And I also want to tell you about a fantastic event that Anne and I are hosting in November. We've got a brilliant lineup of some of the most experienced and knowledgeable business owners in their field. So I'm just going to tell you about that probably about 3/4 of the way through of our presentation. So this is my story. I left the corporate world in 2011. I've mainly worked on big service brands, so a lot of the examples I use are mainly service focused. The last corporate role I was in was for the largest actuarial consultancy in the world, and I headed up marketing for Europe. And before that, I worked for a company that pioneered executive coaching in the UK, and they were owned by one of the largest HR consultancies in the UK. And my focus, I've got 20 plus years marketing and sales experience, and my focus is really what I call around visibility, and I position myself as a visibility strategist. And what this means is that I help companies and individuals and people to really stand head and shoulders above their competition. And I do that by using a certain amount of tactics such as PR and events and research and all those things that I've listed there to help people stand out. But of course, you've got to have a great strategy and you've got to have fantastic messaging in order that all the tactics that you use around it work to your advantage. So I've been doing that for the last 20 plus years. I think it's coming up to nearly 25. And whilst I was in the corporate world, I also undertook my Chartered of Institute marketing exams, and I went on to do a MA in marketing, and my thesis was on services branding. So I just want to share with you this quote before we get into our presentation. And I'm just going to read it out. It's a quote by Seth Godin, and he says, "If the marketing place isn't talking about you, there's a reason. If people aren't discussing your products, your services, your cause, your movement, or your career, there's a reason. The reason is that you're boring." Now, I have to say, I think that's a little bit harsh, but I believe the point that Seth is making here is that if your ideal clients, your target market, is not talking about you, then your business is not sustainable because your target market, your ideal client, doesn't think you are relevant. And this means that there isn't a buzz about you. And that means it's going to be very, very difficult for your ideal client to find you so that they can start to engage with you. So who wants to be boring? Now, I'm sure this has never happened to any of you. I don't expect you've gone in and given a presentation where your clients have put their heads on the table and fallen asleep. And I have to admit that when I worked in the actuarial company, we used to put on a lot of events, and they used to start around about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'd have the rooms filled with like 150 people, and there were a few people who did nod off. But, you know, you might not be in a presentation situation. You might be having a conversation at a networking meeting, or maybe you've arranged to meet somebody for a coffee, or have, you know, maybe a Skype call where you're actually doing videoing. And I just want to ask, have you ever seen them get distracted when you're talking, or that glazed look that comes over them, which means they've really tuned out? And what it means is that at that moment in time, your ideal client is not connecting with you, and therefore, and what it is that they can't see the relevance in what you're actually talking about at that moment, and they switch off. Sorry, I just got a little bit distracted by something that came up on my screen there. I just want to make sure. Okay, yeah, fine. Sorry about that, everyone. And relevance is key in building a sustainable business. So the magic of being interesting, if something is exciting, it will get noticed. Not only do you get noticed, but more importantly, your potential client reacts to it. And creating a buzz equals generating excitement, and excitement motivates people to take action. So this is where I want you guys to get involved. And I just want you to think, who are the mistresses and masters of creating a buzz? You know, who for you is that one person or that company that stands head and shoulders above the rest? And if you just want to put that into the chat box, and then we'll read out a few.
Oh, we've got a couple of quick ones coming in.
Okay, go ahead, Anne.
I've got the iPhone launch.
Brilliant.
Here's one we haven't had before, Simon Cowell.
I was just taking a sip of my coffee then. I nearly spat that out. But very good, actually. Yes.
Yeah. And Disney.
Brilliant.
Then I've also got Sony, but it says in brackets Xbox. So I guess that's their when they're launching games and stuff like that.
Brilliant. And go ahead, Anne. And Oprah. Fantastic. Yeah. And
and Lady Gaga.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I can, I'm just having a look through down the list as well, and I can see that Sadhana's put working women. Brilliant. Okay, well, I want to share with you who came to my mind when I was creating this slide. And it's probably not going to be any surprise. If only I could get these slides to turn over properly. That's it. Apple. Now, you know, Apple is the #1 brand out there. And the thing is, you don't have to be a huge conglomerate to be seen as interesting. I know Apple is. And you don't have to have a budget of $1 billion company like Apple or like Oprah to stand head and shoulders above your competition. And we're going to take a look at some fantastic women who've done this incredibly well without a $1 billion budget. So let's have a look. So we've got 5 lovely ladies here. So let's start off having a look across over to the left. The first one we've got is Marie Folio. And Marie is an American lady, and some of you may have heard of her, and she's the creator of an online program called B School. And she used to run a yearly conference and also a mastermind. But my understanding is now she just runs her 8-week online program once a year. And the publication Inc. reported only a couple of months ago that in 2003 she made $11.1 million. I mean, that is a huge amount of money. And I know that she does a lot of work around education as well and charity work with her money. The lady next to her is Danielle Laporte, and she's Canadian, and she created 2 online programs called Firestarter and Desire Map. And they both started out as online courses, but you can also buy them in book format. And when she launched the Desire Map, which she did via webinar, she said that she lost count when registration went past 10,000 people. I mean, can you imagine 10,000 people tuning in to one webinar? I mean, it really is just amazing. And then the lady next to Danielle is a British lady called Carrie Green. And she created her first business, which was related to mobile phones, while she was studying law at university. And she did it to help put herself through law. And in her video where she talks about this, she realized that after she'd completed her law degree, she realized that she preferred, you know, being an entrepreneur and running her own business than doing law. And she's now created a company called the Female Entrepreneur Association, or Entrepreneurs Association, so I'll correct myself there. And I remember, again, in one of her videos, she said that when she started out, her Facebook goal was to attain 20,000 ideal client likes on her Facebook page. And she gave herself 12 months to do that, and she did. And I mean, now she's got over 100,000 people liking her Facebook page. And next to Carrie, again, we have 2 British ladies, Annie Brooks and Hella Wozniak-Kay. And they are a duo which forms Sister Snog. And what they've done is created a very successful boutique networking club for entrepreneurs and small business owners. And they really focus on creating connections and providing support. And it is a business club. So you can't just turn up and go for one of their lunches. You know, if you want to be part of their community, you get interviewed. There's certain stipulations that you have to achieve in order to be accepted. And lastly, another British lady, we've got the wonderful Sonia Brown, MBE, and she's the founder of the National Black Women's Network. So I want to ask you a question. What did all these fantastic women have in common? And again, if you could just put into the chat box what you think it is, and we'll start sharing some of those results. And Anne, if you can read those out, that'd be great.
Yeah, if I look at some of the ones that I'm seeing here, I've got clarity.
Brilliant.
So a clear vision. Drive has come through.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the ones that I'm seeing are around that they had a very clear message and they wanted to get out there. So a high level of commitment and consistency is the kinds of words I'm seeing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, drive, clarity, consistency of message, a strategy. You know, they definitely knew where they wanted to go. And, you know, that drive is around your determination. So absolutely. Well, there is one thing that they had in common in addition to all those great things. And it's the one thing that really set them apart. And that was they all created a brand that they are fiercely proud of and protect. But it didn't just happen overnight, and I really cannot stress this enough. It was hard work and it took time. And they actively set about creating a brand because they saw the power it gave them in the marketplace when they consistently worked at it. So creating a brand enabled them to get really clear about their brand values. And your brand values are at the very foundation of your business. This is about the things that you feel really, really strongly about. They also had a brand strategy. And that gives, a brand strategy gives any entrepreneur or small business owner a roadmap. And without a brand strategy, it's a bit like driving in the dark without the lights on. You just hope you are going in the right direction and you hope something isn't going to happen. But that brand strategy, it's like lighting up the road. It's putting your own lights on. It just makes it all clearer. And then we have your brand identity. And the important thing about a brand identity, which all of those ladies had, is that they created something that resonated with their ideal client. And that was through tone of voice, color, logo, typeface, pictures. And then their brand essence. And your brand essence is that beacon of light that helps you stay on your path so that you don't get distracted by that bright, shiny object syndrome. It really is allowing the inside to come out so that what you truly feel in your heart is also connecting with your mind. It really is about hearts and minds. So creating a brand takes away any overwhelm or confusion, and it definitely gives you clarity. And as we heard from some of you just now, you know, you recognize that these ladies had clarity. It gives you a sense of purpose and direction. And when you are clear, so is your client on what you offer. And your brand is the tipping point between making a sale and not making a sale. Because the fact is, without branding, a small business owner or an entrepreneur becomes beige. You know, and the objective of being beige is to blend into the background, to act as wallpaper. This means that you don't get noticed and your ideal client can't find you. But your brand makes it immediately clear to your potential client that you are relevant to them. And relevance is key in standing out. So we're just going to have a look at these fantastic ladies again. So your brand name is the first point of recognition. Your brand name, as you can see here, can be your own name, as we have here with Marie Folio, Danielle Laporte, and Sonia Brown. Or it can be a company name like Female Entrepreneurs Association or Sister Snog. But it can also be a specific product or service like the iPhone or the iPad. It's your name that your ideal client immediately associates with your service or product, but more importantly, something they want or desire. The reason why Marie Folio is so successful is she puts consistent effort into her branding to the point that people save up or even take out loans so that they can go on her course. And her course is $2,000. It's an 8-week course. And I've done her course, and I've heard people saying, I had absolutely no money, but I took out a loan so I could do this course. They believe that it is the answer. And that's because she is so skillful at her branding. You know, and is Marie better than someone else at what she's selling? Well, in some respects, she probably is. And in others, possibly not. And in some cases, there are definitely going to be people out there better than her. But it's her branding that sets her above everyone else. So now that we know that the magic of being interesting is your brand, where do we start? Well, we may as well start with some 4 building blocks. So as you can see here, there are 4 key areas. And my view is that these are the 4 key areas in building a successful brand. Now, it does require your time, and the probability is it is going to require a bit of money, but not thousands upon thousands of pounds. And the fact is, I know people who have created a really good brand and have paid no money at all. But first of all, I just want to dispel one myth. Your brand is not your logo, your website, or the colors you use. Often, I definitely hear graphic designers talking about a brand in those terms. And they talk about, oh yeah, that person's brand, and they mean their logo, or that person's brand, and they're talking about their colors on their website. But your website, logo, and your colors are only one small part of your brand. And to have a successful brand, you need to have these building blocks in place. So let's have a look at them in a bit more detail. So the first one is architecture, and I'm going to ask you some questions now. So they're coming up in probably about 1 minute. So your architecture, if you're feeling lost or confused and you don't know where to start, then your brand architecture is something you definitely need in place. It's your beacon of light that guides you on your journey. You are passionate about what you do, and you are here to solve clients' problems. But if you don't have a strategy, then it's really easy to come off track, not focusing your energy on solving your clients' problems and basically not delivering on your promise. So my question to you is, what is your brand promise to your clients? And do you think your clients are aware of that promise? Because if they're not, how relevant do you think you are in their eyes? Now, I know that's a bit of a question there for you, so I'm just going to give you a couple of seconds to think about that. And I'm going to take a sip of my water. And Anne, I don't know if anybody's written anything at all. Might just take a few seconds for them to type something.
I've got a couple of things I can see. One is one of the promises, peace of mind.
Okay.
Time is coming through, so saving people time or better use of their time.
Right.
And I've got one here which just says getting rid of the pain.
Getting rid of the pain, right, okay. And for those people that have responded and told us what it is, are your clients aware of that promise, or do you think you could do more to make them really understand what your promise is, your brand promise?
General consensus, Carol, is there's more to do.
Yes, there is. Brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look at the next section. And sorry, I've just seen as well Sadhna's remark, which is around quality of service, integrity and reliability, service with integrity and reliability. So again, what I would say, Sadhna, there is, are your clients aware of that? Or like some of the other people who've responded, is there more to do? So our second building block is connection. And creating connections is one of the most important activities you can do in growing your business. And, the fact is, in my experience, my clients who are business owners want to work with their ideal client. I mean, they are the people that really make your day. They want to buy what you have to offer. They're ready to do the work, or if you've got a product, they're ready to use that product. And what they recognize is that it solves a problem for them. But how do you connect with your ideal client? How are you making that connection? Well, one of the things is definitely your brand identity. And this is where your logos and colors and websites and graphics all come into play. And it really is making sure that if you've got a website, that your graphics that you're using are reflective of your brand. And you've got to own that. It's not what a designer is telling you. It's what you truly think they should be. And the other thing about making a connection is around your brand personality. So how do you shine through? How do you enable people to see that personality? What are the things that you're constantly doing? And again, I just want to ask this question, and please don't put any names down at all, but have you ever worked with the wrong client? You know, they might be a really good person, which I'm sure they are, but the fit might not be right. And I just wondered if anyone has had that experience. And again, if you can just put that in the chat box, and of course no names, then we'll just read out a couple.
Yeah, that seems to have struck a chord, Carol.
Good.
And a couple of people have just sort of commented why they think that is. One said because I liked them, but they weren't right for me, and I wasn't right for them.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and I can see as well, Anne, as you're saying, that people are putting yes through the question box. And I have to admit that happened to me as well. I worked with a client who was really, really nice, but a nice person, but it just wasn't the right fit. So let's have a look at the our next slide around, so the next building block is communication. You know, and as Danielle Laporte said, you can't have it all, but you can do one or two things really well. So what I wanted to ask you is, what are the one or two things that you do really well to communicate to your ideal client? And I've seen this go horribly wrong for a lot of people, is they think, okay, I've got to do all this social media, I've got to do blogging, I've got to do PR, I've got to go to conferences, I've got to do presentations, I've got to do webinars, I've got to network. And they just start taking a whole load of stuff on. And this is not an exhaustive list of how you communicate your brand. But I'm of the firm belief that if you really want to be successful as a small business owner, you want to do 2, 3, maximum 4 things really, really well in your communication section. And you want to learn those things inside out so that actually you do reap the benefits. I'm just running another one of my blogging courses, and I've just been sending out the questionnaire to people, and it's really interesting, the comments that are coming back, because, you know, some people, they're just not getting any comments at all or any shares in their existing blog. And when I look at everything they're doing, they're just spreading themselves too thin. So it's really about identifying the things that you need to do and also you like to do as well. And what I would say about that, just to go on, just to take that thought a bit further, sometimes there are things that you have to do. So like, say, for example, public speaking. Now, you may not be a natural at public speaking and you may not feel comfortable. It may be way outside of your comfort zone. But what you have to do is recognize that skill and then go and get the right training for it. And, you know, bit by bit, you get better at it. And then you sort of like become a master at it. And it's a really good way of expanding your client base. So you've really got to look at what could you do because you're really good at doing it, but also what should you be doing in order to communicate with your ideal client. And then The last of our building blocks is experience. And your client will judge your business by you, your offering, whether that's the service or product. They will also judge it on the service they receive and their experience. And the key is consistency. And if you want to look at somebody who does this incredibly well, it's McDonald's. And they've really been held up as really key in doing creating client customer experience all over the world. So it doesn't matter wherever you go into a McDonald's, everything is the same. The food is the same. Now, of course, there are some cultural differences in some countries. My understanding is that if you go to McDonald's in India, they don't sell beef burgers, they sell lamb burgers. But apart from that, everything is the same. And Sister Snog, who has a small boutique networking club, does exactly the same. You know, they put on a lunch every month. The food is always good quality. You go into the restaurant, it's all napkins, white tablecloths. You know, you sit down at your place. You've already been allocated a place. You've got a luggage tag in front of your plate with your name on it. When you turn it over, it's got your meal requirements on the back of it. And that's what they do, and it is absolutely consistent. And therefore, that's the level of experience that you can always expect. So we've only started to touch on these elements, and unfortunately, we can't go into all of this today. But I am going to touch on 3 things that will help you get started, and that is getting noticed, getting remembered, and getting talked about. So let's push on. So let's just start off with a question. So what are some of the things that get you noticed by your ideal client? And again, why don't you just put them in the chat box and then we'll read out a couple. So Anne, when something comes through, hopefully you're writing away, guys.
I've got a couple here. Speaking anytime I get the chance.
Okay, brilliant. Yes, I've got one here that says one-to-one networking.
Mm-hmm. I've also got videos, using videos.
Brilliant, absolutely. That's very good because it's also connected with Google mm-hmm. search, because they own YouTube. That's if you've put your video up onto YouTube. Okay, so let's just have a look at what we're going to have a look in this section. So in this section, we're going to have a look at 3 things. One, how you stand out above the clutter. As I said, there is so much information out there. How creating an emotional response is key to building connection. And then we're going to look at building your brand through storytelling. And again, just to manage your expectations, you know, we're just sort of like looking at the tip of the iceberg on these things. You know, you do have to work on them. But hopefully this will give you a good start. So the 7 essentials to lifting your brand message above the clutter. Let your message in whatever format, whether it's email marketing, videoing, as we've heard, blogging, maybe it's SlideShare, let it focus on the solutions. Be seen as a problem solver. Secondly, give your target market something that interests them. Content is king. Thirdly, if you're writing a blog or an article, use headlines that grab people's attention, and don't forget about the subheadings. You know, make them thought-provoking and unexpected. You know, when anybody reads an article these days, the first thing they do is they scan it. And then, and they're really looking at those subheadings. And obviously the title will make them open the blog or the article. And if they're jumping out and meaning something to them, you've got a much higher chance that they're going to read it. Make your message shine. Clarity is key. Don't let the graphics overshadow. Provide a hook. So, for example, 50 people to instantly add to your network, or double your sales by Christmas online workshop. So if you were doing something like that, say in September, that's probably going to get quite a lot of interest because it's reminding people that the end of the year is only a few months away. And then it's giving them sort of like that lovely nugget of being able to double your sales. And number 6 is leverage. We all create so much information and suddenly we don't do anything else with it. So whatever you have got, think about how you could revamp it. You know, maybe you could take several articles and create an infographic. Maybe you could take an article and create a checklist or a cheat sheet. And number 7 is always remember what's in it for your potential client. So always answer that directly. You know, if your client is giving up their time to read your article or your blog or your website or your email or watch your video, you've always got to think what's in it for them, what's the value that they're going to get. And value is absolutely key in building your brand. That's the main difference between Apple, who's a corporate brand with, you know, millions of dollars is spent in marketing and promoting it and also protecting the brand. And then you've got somebody like me or us, you know, a solo operator who's been working for a few years. The difference is how we make a difference is the value that we bring to the table. And that is really, really key. So emotions. So I'm sure many of you on the call tonight know that our emotions are the one thing that keep running all the time, even when we go to sleep. And people respond to everything emotionally, whether it's a red chair, a white shirt, a lovely piece of cake. Every interaction and every point of contact that we make evokes an emotional response. So if you have a brand that emotionally connects with your audience by conveying that they will feel better, smarter, and avoid pain, then the selling becomes so much easier. And there are 3 triggers that make an emotional connection. So the first one is immediate gratification. And this is about building a sense of urgency into your message. So like, for example, this offer expires in 24 hours, or there are only 3 seats left, or doors are closing in the next 3 hours. You know, and that makes people want to buy. And when they get that last seat, you know, or they get that last place, they immediately feel gratified because they feel like they've won. The next one is fear, and fear is a motivator to buy because you tell them about the negative consequences. So, you know, you're focusing on what's going on in Pain Island for them. And then you're sort of like telling them how it could be in Fantasy Island. You know, so you're telling them what the negatives are, and then you're saying, but look, it could be like this. And what they realize is that if they don't buy, they're going to sort of like stay over there in Pain Island. And lastly, and most importantly, the number one reason why people buy from your brand is trust. And trust is built by providing good quality services or products, having a great reputation, and actually the service, the service that you give people of how they engage with you is excellent. So can you think of how you might be able to use this? So think about any of those emotional triggers that you might be able to use. So why don't you just have a think for a second, and maybe we can take 1 or 2 from the, if you put it into the chat box, we can take 1 or 2. And Anne, if you could just read them out.
Yeah, and I've got a question as well, which I'll bring to you as well. The immediate gratification one.
Yeah.
This be for if you were organising an event, or if you've got something specific you want people to come up to. People are quite keen on doing that. And one comment was, is this the same as scarcity?
Yes, yes, scarcity would fall into that. I mean, scarcity would definitely fall into the fact that you're building a sense of urgency because there are only so many places left, definitely.
Yeah. Fear, the second one, I've got a couple of comments of just a little bit uncomfortable with that being perceived as negative.
Yes, I mean, the fact is that we do fear things, you know, and it doesn't always have to be so negative, but it is about pointing things out. I mean, I have clients and I'm always asking them, what are they struggling with? And they will say things like, you know, getting clients. Okay, and why do you need to get clients? And when you start to unpack all of that, you know, people have got their bills to pay, they've got their mortgage to pay, you know, and it does become very fearful. And when you start to talk about things like that in that context, it's sort of like helping people understand it a bit better. So yes, fear is negative. It doesn't have to be seen as manipulation though. So it's not about manipulating people. It's about telling them what it's like and being very truthful and honest. And then again, being very truthful and honest, saying, but it could be a different way. And this is how it could be different. And this is what it looks like. Of course, you're not over promising to do something that you can't deliver.
I've just spotted another one here around trust, which I thought was interesting. Just the question is this what testimonials help you to do?
Absolutely, absolutely. Getting social proof is fantastic. And whether that is a LinkedIn recommendation, whether you would then put that testimonial onto your website, whether you get a video testimonial, yes, absolutely, they contribute to trust. But there is also something about you as a person that people are going to trust. I mean, again, I wouldn't mention any names, but I know there are people out there who run conferences and they get a lot of people to attend them. And, you know, I personally don't trust them, but they, you know, come across as very credible. So it's, for me as well, it's about, okay, you may have all these great testimonials, but when I talk to you, how does it make me feel? Do I believe what you're saying? You know, and also as well, again, this is why it's so important, is because it's what people say about your brand, about you, when you're not in the room. So if somebody says something negative about you in the room, which I'm sure it doesn't happen on here, but of course that's damaging to your brand. So testimonials are great, but you've got to be able to back it up with everything else. You know, so you've got to be able to back it up with having great systems in place, with having a great service, with delivering a great product. And it doesn't have to be the most complex, and it doesn't have to be the most, you know, intellectual thing. You know, simplifying is key, you know, and it can be the simplest thing, but as long as it's done with integrity and, you know, your systems are in place and you're delivering consistently, then that will build trust. Your social proof is really important, but social proof alone will not do it. Is that okay, Anne?
That's great, thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's go on to the next section, which is about, every time I look at the questions, which I've got to stop doing, my screen sort of like freezes a little bit. So building your brand through storytelling. Well, storytelling has been around since history's been recorded. And, you know, it's used to convey and help people to remember messages. I mean, who doesn't remember Aesop fables from primary school? It was one of my favorite things. And you remember the stories, the hare and the tortoise, you know? So storytelling helps your potential clients to connect with your brand on a totally new level. And I just want to make something clear here. When I talk about your brand, you are your brand. Your company is your brand. So it's not something that's outside of you and it doesn't exist. And as soon as you start your business and you start telling people what your offer is and what you're selling, you're creating your brand. So your stories will enable you to make your marketing messages exciting and energize your campaigns. You know, and people really remember stories. It humanizes your brand and creating an emotional connection with your products and services. And it engages your audience and establishes relationships with potential clients, and it educates your audience without overwhelming your buyers. So what do you need to do? Well, first of all, you need to find your story. And everyone has a story. We know the story of Apple and Steve Jobs. We know the story of Nike, you know, and how they made that sole and the swoosh. And for some people who know Marie Folio, they'll know her story as well. And your story inspires and motivates action. It motivates other people to take action. You need to keep your story simple. And remember about surprise and intrigue if you can get it in there. And I've seen some people do this incredibly well. There's a coach I know, her name's Claire Began, and she does this so fantastically well. Every single time she starts off a training session, she'll tell you a story. And right when she gets to like the punchline, she says, oh, what am I talking about that for? Come on, let's get on with our work today. And everyone in the room always goes, oh no, we want to know the answer. And she won't tell you the answer until the end of the course. But if you want to think about surprise and intrigue, have a look at classical story writing. You know, one of my favorite stories when I was growing up was The Wizard of Oz. And the surprise there, if you think that book was written years ago, is when Dorothy's dog Toto, where they're trying to get home and they're in front of the powerful Oz. They've defeated the Wicked Witch of the West, and they've got her broomstick, which the Wizard of Oz has asked for. And Dorothy's dog Toto pulls back the curtain, and standing in front of them is a man, the all-powerful Oz. He is just a man. And that's the surprise and intrigue that is created. So think about and look to classical story writing as to how you can put that surprise and intrigue into your own story. Be authentic and speak from your heart, because people will hear it and they will connect with it. And be sure to leave your potential client wanting more, but don't forget to tell them where to find it. So that's all about making your call to action, having a call to action and making it quick and simple. So before we move on to our next section, I just want to give you a few seconds just to jot down some story headlines or keywords that will help you to remember from this call. I'm not going to take any from the call because you know, it'll be a bit hard to type it all into the chat box, but I just want to give you a few seconds to do that before we move on to our next section, which is about getting remembered. And I'm going to take a sip of water, I think my tea's gone cold now. Okay, So in this section, we're going to have a look at going from attention to brand engagement, and also we're going to have a look at brand positioning. So there are 7 essentials to getting your brand, i.e. you, your business, remembered. First of all, and I'm sure you've heard this one, but it's about talking directly to your ideal client. So in every communication, whether that's an email, a video, a slideshow, imagine your client is sitting in front of you and you are having a conversation with them. Number 2, always communicate the benefits, not just the features. And there's that lovely saying, features tell, benefits sell. Give your brand a voice, look and feel that is consistent and authentically you. And that's your brand identity. That's where we talked about your logo, your colours. Tell your ideal client the competitive advantages of what you offer. I mean, Sadhna, I know you're on the call, and I know you've done a terrific amount of training and learning around homeopathy, and I don't think I've ever come across anyone that knows the amount of information that you know. Now, I'm not saying that your clients don't, your competitors don't know exactly the same, or maybe they don't know as much as you, but just think about some of the things that you can tell a potential client, what makes you different, what gives you the advantage. I mean, you're not going to say to them, the reason why I'm better than my competitors or anything like that, but you're going to understand what are the things that you do better than your competition, and you're going to make sure that you tell your client about them. And don't confuse your client with complex messages. Keep it simple, clear and concise. And number 6 is about building rapport. The fact is, people buy from people they like. And building rapport means listening, asking questions, and really taking a genuine interest in the person you're engaging with. And 7thly, nurture your client through the sales funnel. You know, don't just leave it all up to them. I see this happen a lot. Somebody will sign up to your email list, or you may have met them at a networking group, and they do absolutely nothing about it afterwards. Create the activities to engage your clients. So if you meet them at a networking club, you know, follow them up on LinkedIn, you know, and make a connection. And, you know, are they somebody that it would be worth spending some time with, maybe having a Skype session or meeting up for a coffee? And do things with your client base like surveys, run some surveys, or do some webinars or email marketing or videos, things all the time to keep them engaged. What you don't want to do is you don't want to be boring, so you've got to mix it up. And our bonus point here is your CTA, your call to action. Clients need to be told the next step. So don't forget to remind them what they've got to do. And positioning. Now, there's a really famous saying in marketing, and it's one of the first things that I learned when I was doing my studies, and that is perception is reality. The fact is, to a degree, it doesn't matter what the truth is. It's what people believe the truth to be. And positioning is how you stack up against the competition in the mind of your clients. So what do you do that your competition doesn't do? And what do you do better than your competition? So you've got to think about all of those things and then how you communicate and get that across. And the fantastic thing about positioning is you have complete control over it, because you decide the messages that you put out there, which is your brand tonality. You decide how your business is going to look, feel, the colors you use, your logo, that's all around your brand identity. And then you've got your taglines, which is part of your brand tonality, and I call them brand bites. You know, they're like the little snippets of information that you're going to give people out there. You might do that through Facebook, you might do that through Twitter, but you're in complete control of this. So we're about 3/4 of the way through of our presentation now, and I just thought it would be a really good opportunity to tell you about this brilliant event that Anne and I are hosting in November. And then after that, we're going to have a look about how you get talked about in the market. So the problem. So I want to share something with you. When I started working for myself, I discovered a problem. I met these fantastic business owners who truly were passionate about what they did and knew what they did would really change people's lives, and whether that was personally or professionally or both. But they all had the same problem. They didn't know how to do their sales and marketing. And it reminds me a little bit of the parachute story that I tell some of my clients. And I want to share it here with you today. So imagine that you are going on a journey. You are taken to an airfield and you are told that you are going to have to jump out of an aeroplane. You have no option. You are going to have to do this. But you are given two choices. You can make the jump now and get it over and done with, or you can go through the standard training given to the Army by the Army. So what do you go for? Option 1, where you get it over and done with, or option 2, where you invest your time. And although you have to spend more time thinking about that jump, but when you do it, you jump in much safer conditions. So just type into the chat box, which option would you go for? Option 1, where you do it and get it over and done with, or option 2, where you invest your time and you go through the training. And Anne, maybe you could just tell me what people are putting in.
I don't think it will be much of a surprise. Option 1 doesn't seem to be very popular.
It doesn't. That isn't a surprise. Yeah. So the thing is, you see, jumping out of a plane is kind of dangerous. And if we have to do something that puts our life in danger, going the training route really is a no-brainer. So this is my question. Why is it when running your own business, the option that most business owners and entrepreneurs seem to take is option number 1? No training, no expert advice, just let me throw myself in. And sometimes that gung-ho approach works, but a lot of the times it doesn't. And your business for a lot of people is the equivalent of jumping out of the aeroplane to do a parachute jump without any training. So I started to delve into this a bit more, and I found a few things out. I found out that business owners were in overwhelm. They were feeling lost and confused and just didn't know where to start. And they were fearful of being out there and getting it wrong. And I really can resonate with that. I really know what that feels like. And they weren't attracting the opportunities and the clients they wanted. And they didn't know how to get noticed, let alone talked about and remembered. And they were finding it difficult to communicate their services and the products they were offering, and more importantly, the value that they were bringing to the table in a way that attracts the type of clients that, to be honest, most of us want to work with. It's our ideal client. So I wanted to create a place where business owners and entrepreneurs like you, like me, could come and learn, an opportunity to immerse yourself in a subject for one day related to an aspect of growing your business and your client base, where you would leave with the necessary tools practical tips and insights to take your business to the next level from some of the top experts in the UK. And I wanted to be able to run this so that people would be able to make better informed decisions, so they wouldn't feel overwhelmed, that they'd have a much clearer path. They would know the next best step to take for themselves. And I wanted to make this cost effective. And I definitely didn't want any selling from stage. I didn't want any of these sales pitches. And that's how the masterclass was born. So our first masterclass is on branding, and it's taking place on the 29th of November. And branding is vital to the success and growth of your business. That's why those women that we saw earlier, like Carrie Green and Sister Snog and Sonia Brown, have done so incredibly well, because the magic of being interesting is your brand. It's the way you tap into that magic. Sometimes business owners and entrepreneurs, they discount branding. They feel it's not something for them, that it is only for the likes of the big boys like the Virgins, the Apples, the Oprah Winfreys of this world, big businesses with big budgets. But as Richard Branson said, or as Richard Branson reminds us, he started out in a telephone box. So, such time for my slides to play up. So you might not want to build a 7-figure business, or a multiple 7-figure business. You might just want to have a steady stream of clients bringing in a revenue that works for you. Or actually you might want to build a 7-figure business. The issue isn't about the amount of money you want to make. It's how easily you can do this when you have a powerful brand in place that helps you to get known, get talked about, and get remembered. And when you do that, you will have people queuing up to work for you. So I just want to ask you, is your current brand attracting or deterring your clients? Is your current brand clear and relevant to your ideal client? And would you like to stop running around like crazy and let your brand do the heavy lifting for you? Would you like to create a compelling and effective brand that magnetically draws your clients to you? Would you like to learn and explore just how powerful branding can be when you get it right? You see, effective branding is the thing that elevates you and your business. It's the reason why people pay higher prices. We've seen that with Marie Folio. She does an 8-week program, and it's for getting your online course. There are lots of people out there who do online courses, but she charges $2,000. And it's because she's got a powerful brand that she can charge higher prices. So if you are interested in joining us on Saturday the 29th of November in London, we would love to see you there. And for those of you who like the detail, here it is. So as you can see, we have the wonderful Sonia Brown is going to kick off the day with our keynote speech. And Sonia really is a trailblazer. Her journey is amazing. And I don't know if you're aware, but she's actually got a background in marketing and branding, and no wonder she is so well known. She's really used that to her advantage. So we are going to learn a terrific amount from Sonia. I'm really, really excited about her talk. And then we're going to look at creating your brand strategy. And as we saw earlier, your brand strategy is one of your key pillars in your architecture, so you will never feel confused or overwhelmed again. The next section of our day, we're going to look at how to differentiate yourself from the competition. So you will know how to stand head and shoulders above your competition. And Lynn, who will be taking us through this section, has her own brand marketing consultancy. So again, she's going to be sharing her knowledge and giving lots of practical tips and advice. And then we have the wonderful Mel Noakes, who's going to really be looking at around our customer experience, our brand experience. And Mel works at Sony. She's head of digital experience for Sony. But she also runs her own business called Naked, and it's a coaching company. And she's going to show us what you can learn from a big brand like Sony and how you can understand their experience, how they create a good experience for their customers, which, I mean, funnily enough, my new phone that I just bought was the Sony one. And she's going to show us how we can actually translate that into our, for entrepreneurs. And then in the afternoon, it's fun, fun, fun. We've got the wonderful Susan Heaton, who's just going to do an energizer session to really bring the energy up in the room. Then we've got the wonderful Jules Abernethy, who's a co-founder of the Body Retreat, and her Body Retreat was voted by the Times as being one of the top 50 retreats in the world. And she's going to tell us about how she went through a rebranding exercise. So they already had a brand and how they actually changed their business and they rebranded. And then we've got the wonderful Sister Snog. So we've got both the founders of Sister Snog, and they're going to take us through building your brand through social media. And then we've got an interview called Lost in Translation, and we've got the wonderful Anne Renee, who's on the call tonight, and also Alfie Green. And it's just really about helping people. How do you write a brief for a website designer so that really what's in the inside of you, what's so authentically you can make sure you know how to get it down onto paper so that when you give it to a designer, whoever that might be, they can actually read it and actually give you something that's truly reflective of who you authentically are. And then at the end of the day, we've got the London's top stylist, Lizzie Edwards. And here we're going to focus around personal branding and how you take your brand into how you present yourself to the world. So she's going to take us through that section. So if you would love to join us on Saturday the 29th of November, we're running our conference in the Park Crescent Conference Centre. The full price of a ticket is $147. We've got an early bird going on at the moment of $97. But for people on this call tonight, there is a special price. So if you go to www.blueprintmasterclass.eventbrite.co.uk, and if you type the code in the promotional box branding and press apply, it will take you to another screen where you can get a ticket for £67. So, we would really love you to be there. So I really do hope that some of you who are on the call, we're going to see there. And I'm just going to have a look. I don't know if you've got any questions at all, Anne, from anyone.
I've got a couple of questions that I think are probably relevant to take at this point. It's just, is this intended for females only?
No, it is also intended for men as well. I work a lot with women, and so I often talk to female entrepreneurs because they're my main target group. But there are men coming along. We've got Alfie, obviously, he's a man. He's going to be speaking. He's really, really good. So no, this event is for both men and women.
And there's a second question that's just been typing in as we've been speaking. I'm already doing some work on a program that is looking at branding. Will this conflict with it?
No, funny. That's a really good question, whoever asked that. And that's really, really funny because I've been talking with somebody today who actually is running their own branding program. And actually, they see this very much as a compliment to what I'm doing, because on a lot of branding programs, you might not cover every single aspect, that we're covering. Some branding programs will really focus on your essence, really manifesting what's going on inside and how you get it out so your brand is authentically you. And that takes, some work. So they might not be covering, for example, personal branding and styling. They might not be covering how to write a brief for a website designer. They might cover strategy. They might, you'll probably always learn additional things as well, but it's very much a complement to a branding program that you might be doing or thinking of doing.
Great,
is there anything else, Anne, or else I'll move on?
Not at this point.
Okay, so getting talked about. So we're into the last leg now of our presentation. So you sell to one person, and that one person tells no one. You've just sold to one person. You sell to one person and that person tells 100 people, then 10% are going to buy from you. So you've sold to 11 people. The fact is, word of mouth marketing, or as we sometimes call it, influencer marketing, amplifies your message. And McKinsey Quarterly said that word of mouth marketing generates more than twice the sales of paid for advertising. So you will get more sales through word of mouth marketing. And word of mouth marketing builds lots of mutually beneficial relationships. So let's have a look at someone who does this really well. And here we go, Justin Bieber. So I was going to say despite, when I put these slides together, despite his recent brush with the law, but once again, I see tonight on the TV, he decked a paparazzo in the face and put his hand up, against the neck of another paparazzi. So despite his brush with the law, despite what he does, his on and off, again, romance with his girlfriend, Selena Gomez, his fans love him and his fans never leave him. And he creates a buzz and people talk about him. So this is his secret. It's really simple. And this is how you can apply it to your business so that you can generate some of that Bieber fever. So first of all, he has a two-way communication with his fans. It's not just about, he doesn't just post about himself. And I really can't stress that enough. You can't just keep posting all about yourself. What he does is he asks his fans to share their days with him. He asks their questions. So can you imagine if you're a 13, 14-year-old girl who's following Justin Bieber, and Justin Bieber via Twitter asks you how your day is going, and you tell him and he responds to you. Can you imagine how you're going to feel? Really, it would be a little bit like George Clooney saying to me, Carol, I've made a mistake. I want to marry you. So, and what he does is he provides an insider view, a personal insider view of his life. And what happens when you do that is that you build trust and loyalty through intense, consistent engagement. And he does this thing that we call in marketing, which is called cross-marketing. So he markets out to his fans via YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So that's what Justin Bieber does. So how can you create that Bieber fever or Bieber brand fever for your business? It's simple. It's all to do with relevance. It's all about the consumer of your content. So it's not about you. It's all about your client. What do they need to learn from you? What are their problems? What are you trying to solve? And loyalty and trust matter when you're delivering content. And whether that's your blog, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, website, Instagram, whatever it is. And it's really about appealing to your client's specific interests. And just think about it. How many of you have got clients that you've worked with and perhaps they're on Twitter or they're on Facebook? How often do you just drop them a line to say, just wonder how your day's going today? You know, or how's that big project that you're working on? Share information about you. It could be, you know, you could be really excited about going on a holiday. Or having a really relaxing weekend after a stressful week. All of those things, you know, people can relate to them and you become relatable. And one of the things I did, one of my best friends was getting married and I wrote on my Facebook, it was earlier this year, she got married at the end of March. And I normally go to the gym on a Saturday morning where I do a grueling 3 classes. And I wrote on my Facebook page, oh, off to the gym. And I said, hell no. I said, my best friend's getting married. I'm out having champagne breakfast and then I'm off to get my hair done. And I had loads and loads of comments and interactions because I shared a little bit. I made a little joke and I shared something, you know, of what I was doing that day. Now, it just shows a part of me. It shows a bit of my personal life and that people can learn. I don't do it all the time because I want to engage with people on the stuff that I know really well about, but sharing a little is okay because it increases interaction, engagement, and actually conversion because people see that you're a real person. It makes you relevant, not just to your existing clients, but also to your potential clients. So there is that saying, it takes a village, but we've crossed that word out and replaced it with community, or you may wish to replace the word community with tribe. And it is all about creating your own tribe. So for example, if you come on our masterclass, you will also get access to our private Facebook group. And our private Facebook group is for masterclass people only. You only have to attend one masterclass and you're part of the Facebook group forever. We will be putting additional training in those in the Facebook group, which will be free. It will come from me, it will come from Anne, but it will also come from our speakers. What it won't be is what you learn on the day in the masterclass is only delivered in that room. It's not recorded, we don't share it anywhere. And what we share in the Facebook group will be additional training. And it might be on branding or it might be something else. I'll probably do something around LinkedIn for people. But the thing is as well, it's a community where you can start to get to know people and you can share and talk about yourself as well and take part in conversations that are going on. And that's all around creating a community. And Sister Snog, who we've seen earlier, also does this very well for their group. They have a private membership area on their website where you can go in and make friends with the other sisters, and you can go out for dinners or lunches, and you can go to each other's events, and you can have conversation. So it's about creating that community feel that you belong to something. If you tell one person you have a conversation, but you tell many, it's the potential to go viral. So it's really important to get on social media and to do it consistently if you are not already doing so. And a phrase that sticks spreads. So, you know, I don't know if you can remember things like, well, I mean, at the moment we talk about B-School and Firestarter, but I remember, you know, you've been tangoed or a finger of fudge. And when I was growing up, vacuum cleaners were called Hoovers, but actually Hoover was a make. And Hoover's been replaced now. People don't normally say, I'll get the Hoover out. They'll say, I'll get the Dyson out or the Vax. So it's been replaced. And will we ever say the word Apple again and not think about Steve Jobs or maybe the iPhone or the iPod or Mac Air? So to finish off with an equation. So communication plus motivation plus relevance multiplied by tons of excitement delivers getting noticed, getting remembered, and getting talked about. And the magic of being interesting is your brand. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who's on the call and has stayed for the duration of the call. I think we're going to take some questions now. I'm just going to leave that up for a few moments. But Anne, have we...
Yeah, I've got you. You may want to have a scan and just see if there's any others that catch your eye. But they've been. I've kind of paraphrased and written down something that's been asked by a number of people. Is it better to have a brand that is my name, as I am in services, and then in brackets it says coaching consultancy?
Yeah, really, really good question. This is a really good question, and it is a difficult question to answer. But this is what I would suggest. There are people that have done this very successfully either way. I would suggest that I think you've got to think about long term. So if you are going to hire a number of people so that they're going out representing your business, and if your intention is to one day sell that business, I would probably go on creating, a name, a company name. But if your true aim is to be a Marianne Williamson, a Wayne Dwyer, a Tony Robbins, if your aim is to be somebody, then it really is about keeping your name, because people will remember your name. And I remember when I started, and the fact is I probably have got this wrong, but when I started I thought, I've got to have a name for my business, because my intention then was to actually have a consultancy where I would hire people. And I didn't come up with the name of my company, my sister did. And the reason why we came up with that name is because everybody needs a blueprint for life and for your business. And it was as I got into my business, I thought, no, do you know what? I'm not going to create a big consultancy. I'm going to do this myself. I changed my strategy, which is fine. That's what it's there for. Your strategy should be reviewed and you should challenge yourself around it. And now I think to myself, I should have gone for my name. I should have gone for my name. It really is up to you. There is no hard and fast rule about what you should do. If you want to keep your name, if it's easy and rememberable and it's easy for people to spell, that's great. If your name is maybe Joe Brown, the probability is there's loads of Joe Browns out there. But if it's something a little bit more unusual, it's really, and people can remember it, then it's easy to keep. But it's really down to you. It really doesn't matter. It's what you feel you're going to do with your business. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think
it was a bit difficult for me.
No, I think that's helpful. The second, I guess, kind of builds on part of the answer you've already given, which is, do you apply the same approach to refresh an existing brand that might have had its day?
Yeah, again, really, really good question. Yes, it's like anything. If you have a website and you don't refresh that, it's going to look very staid. Now, of course, your brand is about your values and really the essence of who you are, and it's about matching up your heart and your mind. But what you've got to understand is you grow as a person. So your values are probably not going to change, but your desires and maybe your thoughts and approaches on how you're going to do things might change. So yes, you might want to refresh your brand. And this will be a great course for anybody thinking of refreshing their brand, just to be able to sit there and go through that process. And it's a little bit like your business strategy. At the very least, you want to review your branding strategy once a year. You want to sit down, you want to look at that document that you created, and everyone's got to create a document. There's no point it being in your head. You've got to have it written down, and you've got to read it, and you've got to say to yourself, does this still hold true? What I'm doing now, is it still reflective of my brand, or do I need to change something? And if you do need to change something, then you've got to look at the knock-on effect that that has throughout the whole of your brand. So yes, this is definitely a great opportunity for people who want to refresh an existing brand.
Great. I don't know if you want to just have a quick flick and just before we close, see if there's any other questions that you...
No, there's nothing that I can see at all.
I've got one more in that case.
Okay, so let's just take one more, and then that'll be the final.
It actually came in quite early, so it related to something early on.
Okay.
Where you talked about websites, presentations, you know, you gave us that list. And the question is there one thing on that list that you absolutely must do? And then add the others too.
No, there isn't one thing that you absolutely must do. Are you talking about the list of when you're doing your actual communication?
Yes, you know, you had website, you had presentations, you had a list of different PR I think was on the list as well. It was one of the early slides.
I mean, when you go through this exercise of branding, it is going to start to make you look differently at your website, at your, you know, how you present yourself to the world. You know, you do need a home so that people can find you. But the fact is, I mean, I started my business without a website, and there are things like a company called Lead Pages where you can create landing pages. So you can create a landing page where somebody can sign up to your email list without having a website. It's amazing. So is there one thing that you've got to do? No, but you do have to do some of those things consistently. I would personally say you've definitely got to do social media and get out there, because social media isn't going away. And, you know, it's if you think about it, if somebody's looking at you as, say, a coach, was this lady a coach, Anne?
It's not clear from the...
Oh, right. Okay. Well, let's just say as an example that you're a coach and you've got somebody else, you know, say you've got a potential client who's looking at you and looking at someone else. Well, just like we all do these days, we go onto the internet and we do our own research because we're looking to help us make those better informed choices. So yes, we'd look at your website. Yes, we'd look at your social media. We'd look at your LinkedIn. And, you know, if people put in your name or your company name, your LinkedIn profile is going to be the first thing that comes up because it is so interwoven with Google, because so many people are on LinkedIn and so many people do searches for other people. So, yeah, you know, you've got to be there. To not be there is really missing a trick. But is there one thing that you've got to be really, really good at? No, what you need to do is understand where your strengths are, and you've got to play to those strengths, but you've also got to look at, you know, what's taking you outside your comfort zone and what you should be doing to really help propel your business forward.
Great. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. So again, everyone, I'm just going to check that there are no questions my end. Let me just put our lovely Seth quote up again. I'm having a look here. Okay, no, there isn't anything at all. Okay, everyone, well, thank you so much. You're going to get a recording. I'll send you the link to the recording of this webinar. But I'd just like to thank you for your time. It really means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to you as well, Anne, doesn't it?
Oh, it's great. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to join us.
Yes, and hopefully we'll see some of you at the event. Take care, everyone. Bye.